Our legacy lesson for this week. Every Tuesday we come in is the goal. Every Tuesday anyway, around lunchtime, around noon EST ish, and here we are today. And the whole purpose and point of this is to bring amazing value.
Yes, to bring amazing value that
Mhm.
gives you guys, particularly as married entrepreneurs, a way to think about, approach, improve, impact your communication in business and how you are executing your business as you guys are building out your legacy. So we love coming in here, bringing and sharing these nuggets with you guys on Tuesday afternoons
Noons with a Z. And just for those, just in case those
with
of
a
you
Z.
who have been, this may be your first time joining us. Real quick intro: I'm Sway
And I'm Ola
Buckley.
Buckley.
Yes,
And we are Marriedpreneurlife.com, co-host of Remember Like the podcast. We help mission-minded married entrepreneurs, all of you who want to get more clarity, generate more income, and above that, you want to leave a lasting impact.
Yes, we are coming to you live today from a couple of different platforms. You may see our eyes going back and forth, but the main point and purpose of this today is to dive all the way in. Now, I want to say this too, because oftentimes when we'll say marriedpreneurs, some couples will say, well, we're not doing this together. We're only doing this, or one of us is doing this and only one of us is doing this, or we want to transition eventually to do this, all that stuff. Okay, let me just break it down real quick for you. This is what we've observed over the last about 10-ish years of working full-time as marriedpreneurs, strategists helping other married entrepreneurs build out their legacy. Here's what we've noticed. There are three primary types of marriedpreneurs. So we have the indiepreneur, marriedpreneur type. And that's where both spouses are building individual businesses. And then you have the spousalpreneur type.
That's so one of you is working a 9 to 5 while the other is building a business.
Right. And then we have the couplepreneur.
That's where both of you are building the same business together.
Yes. So you can be a combination of those, or like this is where we are, or transitioning. Basically, what we're saying is this is for you. It doesn't matter which one of those marriedpreneur types you are. This today, we're going to be diving into money mindset shifts for marriedpreneurs. And just, I guess to give a little context and background, we recently, and this kind of is a plug too for the Marriedpreneur Life podcast. This past week, our latest episode out is all about building a business, business builders as marriedpreneurs, being business builders, but also ultimately trusting God as business builders. And, it is a business podcast. We are business strategists. We are business coaches for specifically married entrepreneurs. But you are going to hear us talk about our faith, because ultimately this all ties in. This is our foundation of why we do what we do, how we do. It determines like how we interact and engage with others. And so it is critical for us. And when we first started building out our businesses, as my business is a staffing firm, yours
is a consultancy, right? Dealing with commercial real estate.
And then now bringing them together to help married couples build together. Our whole thing has always been like, well, who can we work with or invest in who has our same values, core values? And it was far and in between when we started to find like people who actually got it, far and few, and thank you, that few part, who actually understood where we were coming from, but who also had the amazing business skill sets all at the same time. So that's really important to us as we build, because what you believe, your personal beliefs, come out and through your content and through your training, through your coaching. And it is a type of mentoring. You're not just being mentored in one area, you're being mentored by the whole belief system. And so that podcast is out, and it's a really powerful one, because of the stuff that people don't often talk about, especially as believers building businesses. The whole money, or that part is just trusting God. But then today we're tying into the money aspect of it, the money mindset shifts that we realize as married entrepreneurs, what is necessary and why this is even a topic for us today. So we want to first give you that plug. Check out the Marriedpreneur Life podcast, the latest episode. Also, you can download our free systems checklist for married entrepreneurs. If you all are needing systems to strategize, to get on the same page, to increase profitability, you want to grab our systems checklist. And just how you can do that, just drop the word systems in the comments, or you can send that to us via in the DMs. We'll get that over to you totally free. Now, done with the housekeeping.
Yes, done with the housekeeping.
What we're talking about today and why we're talking about it.
Yeah, we're talking about money mindset shifts as it
Yes.
pertains to being believers, building businesses,
Hmm.
and having that mindset around money. And that's really what it is. It's addressing. We're speaking to the mindset around money
Yeah.
as it pertains to our business. So let's start here just from a point of observation and what we've
Mm.
seen, and this goes back years and years and years. And that is this: there's this notion with being believers in the marketplace as married entrepreneurs where we're trying, I think oftentimes in a very sincere way, they're trying to make sure that they are putting themselves in the best light
Mm.
before God,
Mm.
and therefore making presumptions around money in business regarding with investing in themselves,
Mhm.
charging for their product or service, and so forth. The other side of that is having this notion about, well, how will we be perceived before our market, those who would be our customers and clients. And so so what we've observed is this odd dance, which is really not fruitful, really not helpful, really
Yeah.
not productive, of trying to make sure that, oh, well, how does God view me in this way, charging and so forth, and then how would my customer base or potential clients view me for charging. And so what happens is we're trying to accommodate these ideas that we've projected both onto God and onto our market.
Yeah.
And what happens is we're trying to say, well, we won't charge, or we won't charge what we could or should charge because we
Yeah.
want to come off the right way. And let's just say this at the onset: we have to understand the nature of what it is that we do. And I just want to say this, and we can keep it moving. Business, by its very nature,
Mhm.
is transactional. So
Absolutely.
if we have any toxic thinking around how we're viewing money in the span of in this space of business, that has so many residual negative impact,
Mhm.
um, that is ultimately going to just frustrate us.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it's also important that we say before we dive into these necessary money mindset shifts. As married entrepreneurs, whether you're an indie spouse or a couplepreneur, it's really important to do the work and making sure that you're also on the same page, because one of you can feel more confident and comfortable in this area,
Right.
right? And that's great, or have one mindset about it, and then the other one maybe not so much. And so, we believe that even if one of you is called to entrepreneurship, that the whole family, the marriage is impacted by that as well too, and that has a lot to do with your money mindset concerning how you're doing your pricing, what you're offering in your offer, all these different things. But first of all, the foundation is understanding how to have a healthy mindset concerning the money, as well as understanding that your mindsets are shiftable. They can be shifted.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And which to say that they can be shifted, they can be improved, corrected, right?
Mhm.
So the first aspect when we talk
Yeah.
about money mindset, a mindset really is really a perspective. It's
Mhm.
our way of seeing something,
Yeah.
right?
Belief.
So we want to make sure then that the goal I would hope we would share with it to be to make sure that our view or perspective is one that, especially since our concern is starting with God, and how is this going to be perceived, or how is he going to be perceived if I'm charging, or even with my client base,
Mhm.
we want to start with God, right? Because that's where we start as married entrepreneurs who are believers in this space. So how does God view it?
Mhm.
And is my perspective, I would want to assess that the same perspective that God would have. And
Mhm.
so oftentimes we project our perspective onto God and say, well, that's what God would want me to do or not do, right?
Mhm.
Or charge or not charge. And
Mhm.
so what happens is that from that projection, then we get this skewed perspective, and
Mhm.
that shapes the wrong money mindset. But because, again, to your point, it's shiftable, it's malleable, it can be changed, it can be corrected. Then we
Beautiful.
want to say, okay, well, Lord, how then
Mhm.
is your perspective
Mhm.
on me in business, on us in business?
Mhm.
And going back to your earlier point, we as married entrepreneurs got to make sure that we share that same understanding that God shares about us in business and our pricing and so forth. Because again, if I have one perspective and you have another perspective, then we're still not on the same page about that. And that can become a huge, huge challenge. So it's important not just for me to have the right perspective, but for my wife to have the right perspective and so forth. So we want to make sure that we're sharing God's perspective. And here's the reality. If we are sharing God's perspective, then automatically we will be doing right by our clients. That's right. Automatically we will be doing right by our customer base.
And automatically we will be charging what we need to be charging. And oftentimes what we've seen over the years is that there's a breakdown when it comes to that money mindset piece, that there are so many couples who are undercharging more than charging rightly. Right. That's usually like where it begins to one of the red flags.
Yeah, which leads exactly to the next part here. So the first is perspective, sharing God's perspective about money in business.
Yes.
That's foundational and foremost. From there, we build the next block, if you want to call it a building block. The next block then is seeing it as, okay, having the right perspective about our perspective on charging in business, seeing it as God's provision. God's provision. It's if we pray and we ask God for provision and he has promised to provide for us, then rest assured that part of that provision, especially as we are called to the marketplace, we're called to business as married entrepreneurs, then that provision comes through how we are pricing and charging for our product and service. So really there's no distinction. It's really a connection. They're really built in together. Our perspective on money and business is directly related to God's provision for us.
That's why it's so important to have the right one, the right mindset.
Exactly. And when that's not there, then when that provision is not there, but we're working hard in business and doing all these things, then we need to say, okay, do we have the right perspective? Because if we do, then that's going to be reflective in our pricing. And if it's reflective in our pricing, then that's, again, one of God's many ways of his provision for us. So perspective is connected to provision, and God's perspective is connected to God's provision for us as married entrepreneurs.
And I would also say, before we go into this last point too, so all that is connected all together, as you can see. In addition to that, that also the money mindset also plays a big role on how you look at your own selves and investing in your own selves, because there's this mindset also that's like, oh, well, let me just get whatever I can get for free and expect to have results of something that you actually pay for, right? So free things can give you results, but don't expect free things to give you the same results that paid things will give you results for, right? So just understanding that and being healthy with the mindset of saying, no, we need to invest in ourselves. Like, we need to invest in learning this skill. We need to invest in learning how to do that, or invest in hiring this person over here. Just understanding that mindset it permeates every area of our lives.
I want to make just a quick correlation with that. So if your business is somehow in a product, I'm just going to use this as an example, and you have to use certain tools or instruments in order to turn out that particular product that you then go and sell. Well, if there's a breakdown with the equipment, a breakdown with the instruments or the tools, then what do? You invest in those instruments and tools. Well, let me say this too, for both people who are in the product space as well as in the service space. Your knowledge base is a tool.
Come on.
And so
absolutely,
the right perspective says I need to invest in my knowledge base, because that too is a tool, right? So I want to enhance that, like I want to enhance the tangible tool that may be in my hand. I want to enhance the tool that's in my mind, right?
Yeah.
That's in our understanding, the tool of our mind. Absolutely.
That's good. So that's good. So we talked about the perspective, provision, and then tie back into the last one.
The last one being then purpose. Now, purpose really is a two-way. There's two ways of looking at purposes. It's more of a two-way street. First of all, there's the purpose of we're called into this business. We're called into this space. And this is what the Lord has for us to do. And we're doing it, and we're rocking and rolling, and we got the right perspective. And we're having an understanding that this is, yes, God's provision, and that's being reflective in our pricing and so forth. But it's also purpose, and the purpose is two-way. One, yes, it's purpose for us in the sense that we're in purpose working on purpose, but our purpose is always connected to the purposes of others. So even as it relates to
That's
your
so good.
customers and your clients, they're being enhanced and growing and changed and impacted, as well as their families. As you're in purpose, you're impacting the purpose of others. And that goes beyond just the impact that your product or service is having directly in your customer base, but also there's partnerships that are formed.
Yep.
That's a sense of purpose. There's relationships that are formed. That's a sense of purpose. So you really got to see purpose as a 360 way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And all of it is connected. Right perspective, God's provision, in purpose, on purpose.
That's it. That's it for today. That's all. That's it for the legacy lesson. I think that was ample. And it doesn't matter where you may be on this journey of your marriedpreneur, building your legacy, building your businesses. When it comes to the money mindset, the shifts are necessary, and we have to continue to do that because we hear so many different
perspectives.
I was about to. God just caught my tongue. About to say something. We hear so many poor and unhealthy perspectives and beliefs that are not that are opposite of how we should be living and building and doing transactions in business. And some of those would be debasing how we charge, like just really undercharging, and then wondering, you're offering all this, but you're fearful of charging more based on what it is that the results that you bring, right? There's that aspect, which is unhealthy. But on the other end of the spectrum, it's also equally as unhealthy to overcharge and think more highly of your product and your services than the results that you actually bring, right? So both are unequal. They're unbalanced scales. And so the whole point of it is to understand, hey, you know what? If you want to, let's just say, charge whatever this amount is, but you're not bringing those results, you have one or two options to make it right. You can decrease in what you're charging or increase the value to match and even supersede. We like to go above and beyond, exceed the value of that pricing that you're offering, right? Absolutely. So those are the two options to do it rightly, right? You don't want to stay there. So that's that. Just hopefully take that little piece with you, and that it encourages you all as you're building, that you're not on either one of those, but really being rightful with making sure that you are confident in what you're offering to the marketplace, that you are clear about those results, because all that ties back into the money mindset, into your value and all that stuff. So hopefully this was helpful for you all. Just a real quick recap, the housekeeping that we did at the beginning. Check out the latest episode of the Marriedpreneur Life podcast, where we're talking about trusting God as business builders. You can listen over on marriedpreneurlife.com. You can also grab our free systems checklist for married entrepreneurs who are seeking powerful systems to build businesses without stress and overwhelm. Amen for that. It's true and it's possible. So you can grab our free systems checklist. You can drop systems in the comments or systems to our DMs, and we'll get that over to you as well. And we'll take it from there. So until next time,
keep living purposefully,
powerfully,
and profitably in sync.
Peace out, y'all. Y'all have a good one.